Welcome to History World EX, where we travel through time to explore the stories that shaped the world. From ancient civilizations to the most recent events, we unravel the most fascinating chapters of humanity. How did one man manage to plunge the world into one of the most devastating wars in history? Adolf Hitler's life is a tale of ambition, fanaticism, and destruction, from his childhood in Austria to his tragic end in a Berlin bunker. His rise to power transformed Germany and unleashed a storm of violence that changed the course of the 20th century. Through his ideology and decisions, he left a legacy of death and suffering whose consequences still resonate around the world. Was Hitler a historical anomaly or the product of a society in crisis? Adolf Hitler, the rise and fall of the most feared dictator. Adolf Hitler was born in Braunheim, Austria, in 1889, into a modest and difficult environment. From a young age, he displayed artistic curiosity and a special sensitivity toward painting, although his dream of becoming an artist was thwarted. Hitler's early life was full of contrasts, where the internal struggle between creative aspirations and political destiny began to take shape. His formative years were influenced by the Austro-Hungarian environment, which shaped his ideas and laid the foundations for his ideological and military future. These early years left an indelible mark on his character and outlook. During World War I, Hitler enlisted in the German army, displaying a patriotic fervor that drove him to fight in the trenches. His participation in the conflict allowed him to gain military experience and forge an identity marked by extreme nationalism. Despite the wounds and hardships of war, he emerged with increasingly radical convictions, which would later define his rise in German politics. This crucial period in his life consolidated his image as a determined leader and helped form the foundations of his warmongering and expansionist ideology. This led to a controversial future for him. Following Germany's defeat in World War I, Hitler found an opportunity in the political sphere to channel his resentment and ambition. He joined the Nazi Party, where he quickly distinguished himself with his eloquence, determination, and ability to mobilize the masses. His fiery oratory and promises to restore national pride attracted an electorate desperate for radical change. This political rise was fueled by the economic and social crisis, transforming collective frustration into a phenomenon of power and control, which would usher in an unprecedented turbulent era in European history. Once in power, Hitler implemented authoritarian policies that consolidated his control over Germany. Through decrees and the elimination of opponents, he established a totalitarian regime that suppressed freedoms and dissolved democratic institutions. Nazi propaganda became a key tool for spreading his ideology and manipulating public opinion, while the cult of personality reinforced his image as a national savior. This period saw a radical transformation of the state, with repressive laws and extreme measures that paved the way for military expansion and the systematic persecution of minorities and political opponents, driving irreversible change. Hitler's ideology was based on racial superiority and anti-Semitism, concepts he promoted through relentless propaganda. Through inflammatory speeches and the strategic use of the media, he promoted a worldview in which the purity of the Aryan race was fundamental to the rebirth of the German nation. This doctrine spread widely, generating fervor and hatred that translated into policies of discrimination and violence. Nazi propaganda played a crucial role in transforming historical prejudices into a systematic ideology that justified atrocities and fostered the radicalization of society without further limits. Over time, Hitler's rhetoric evolved into an ambitious plan of territorial and military expansion. His imperialist vision and the idea of Lebensraum drove an aggressive policy that sought to rebuild a Germanic empire. War planning materialized in strategies of conquest, political alliances, and military maneuvers that challenged the established order in Europe. This expansionist approach not only transformed German politics but also laid the groundwork for conflicts on a global scale, where military power became the primary tool for ruthlessly achieving ideological and economic objectives, marking the inevitable beginning. Hitler's ambition reached its climax with the outbreak of World War II, a conflict that transformed the global geopolitical landscape. His military strategies and expansionist policies led to the invasion of Poland, triggering a series of alliances and confrontations that plunged Europe into devastation. This global conflict exposed the cruelty and ruthlessness of the Nazi regime, leaving deep scars on society and altering the course of history. The war became an arena where ideological fanaticism clashed with international resistance with tragic consequences, unleashing endless chaos. Under Hitler's leadership, the Nazi regime perpetrated the Holocaust, one of the greatest atrocities in human history. Through policies of systematic extermination, millions of Jews, as well as other minority groups, were persecuted, imprisoned, and murdered in inhumane conditions. This campaign of terror demonstrated the capacity of absolute power to unleash unbridled violence. The extermination methodologies were applied with chilling precision, leaving a legacy of suffering and pain that still haunts current generations. The Holocaust stands as a reminder of the dangers inherent in extreme intolerance, tragically marking history. Throughout his life, Hitler maintained complex and contradictory relationships within his personal life. Although he is known for his public image as a charismatic and determined leader, his intimate relationships were marked by loneliness and mistrust. His relationship with Eva Braun, for example, was carefully concealed, reflecting the duality of his existence, an imposing public figure and an enigmatic private life. These complexities reveal the tension between his idealized image and the reality of a man consumed by obsession, control, and paranoia, which added additional layers to his already deeply disturbed personality. If you enjoy this historical analysis and want to see more content like this, don't forget to like the video. In the final days of the war, the situation became desperate for the dictator. With the advance of the Allied forces and the fall of Berlin, Hitler retreated to his bunker, where paranoia and isolation marked his final moments. In this atmosphere of chaos and imminent defeat, he chose to end his life, avoiding capture and trial. His death became a symbol of the fall of the Nazi regime, leaving a legacy of controversy and pain, and raising questions about the nature of power and responsibility in times of crisis, without redemption. Hitler's life and death unleashed a series of consequences that shaped the 20th century. The devastation caused by the war and the atrocities committed left deep scars on European and global society. The lessons learned prompted the creation of international organizations and peace treaties aimed at preventing future conflicts. Furthermore, the dictator's figure became a symbol of the perversity of absolute power, prompting generations to reflect on the dangers of fanaticism and intolerance. His legacy continues to be the subject of analysis and debate in historical, political, and cultural circles. Hitler's regime radically transformed German society, leaving an indelible mark on its political, social, and cultural structure. Mass indoctrination, censorship, and information control generated a climate of fear and conformism that lasted for decades. Repression and the persecution of opponents created deep divisions, the aftermath of which extended even after the end of the war. This social impact highlighted the fragility of a democracy threatened by extreme ideologies and served as a historical lesson about the dangers of manipulation and authoritarianism in any modern society, unexpectedly leaving scars for posterity. The rise and fall of Hitler triggered a profound change in the world order, marking the beginning of a new era in international relations. The devastation of war and the exposure of the extremes of authoritarianism prompted the formation of alliances and the creation of international organizations. This global realignment not only redefined borders and political systems but also fostered cooperation and dialogue in the pursuit of peace. The events of that period have influenced contemporary politics, setting precedents that still resonate in diplomacy and the construction of a more just world. Hitler's figure has left an indelible mark on global culture and collective memory. Through films, books, and documentaries, his image has become a symbol warning against the excesses of power and tyranny. The study of his life and the consequences of his actions has served to educate generations about the dangers of intolerance and extremism. This cultural legacy, though painful, is used to encourage critical analysis and reflection on how to prevent history from repeating itself in future societies, always reminding us of the importance of democracy. Adolf Hitler's legacy is a grim reminder of the limits to which absolute power can reach. His life, filled with contradictions and acts of violence, is studied as an example of the dangerous combination of extremist ideology and political manipulation. The lessons learned from his story have led to a global commitment to peace, justice, and respect for human rights. Through a critical analysis of his actions, we seek to prevent similar movements from emerging in the future, consolidating the importance of education and historical memory in building more supportive and democratic societies. Adolf Hitler's life, marked by ambition, hatred, and violence, leaves a disturbing legacy that continues to spark debate and reflection today. The narrative of his rise and fall invites us to question how a single figure could have had such a devastating influence on the fate of entire nations. While analyzing the lessons learned from that dark period, the question arises, can humanity truly learn from its mistakes? This video offers a profound and critical look, opening up the possibility of a future in which historical memory serves as the beacon that guides the path to peace. If you found this historical analysis interesting and would like to learn more about other countries, cultures, customs, and historical events, we invite you to leave your comments and suggestions. Don't forget to like the video, share it, and tap the bell so you don't miss any updates.